Okay, I think everybody's here, so we're gonna get started.
All cleaned up, so we'll see.
Aaron put together an agenda, and we can just walk through it, but of course, if anyone has any specific questions or concerns about the process,
Bless you.
certainly speak up near the end. We have a high-level timeline, we can walk through.
Yeah, I can walk through
That'd be great.
So I put this together, I think, last year, and I just moved the date forward for this year, using the same dates. But I thought we could all just get together to walk through it, any feedback on not only the timeline, but just the budget process, joint meetings, the submissions of the budget from the heads of the departments, anything else related to that process, just so we can all get on the same page kind of early. So on the second page, the high-level timeline, I'll just go through this quickly. Budgets requested in either early January or late December. I don't know if you all have a preference on that. And then we usually have them due mid-February. We'll have our budget meetings with the department heads through probably mid-March to mid-April. Subcommittee meeting in May, and then finalize the budget for the town meeting in June. So if you flip to the next page, page 3 has more specific dates. So last year we did have like a mid-January send the requests out to the department heads by this date. They were due kind of later in February. March 10th through April 11th, we would have our joint meetings, which we'll talk about next. And then April 16th through May 2nd, we'll have the subcommittee meetings. Early May, we'll finalize the budget. And then the remaining dates are kind of just, and Diane can probably review these for us and just make sure that they're correct. But they just kind of back up from when we have to have the budget finalized. So May 23rd is that, I think, Thursday or Friday before Memorial Day. And before that, we have to have the public hearing, and then we have to post the budget a couple weeks before that, and the town meeting is June 2nd. Any questions on that?
The only question I have is, and I guess it would be to Mike, maybe. Mike, does the annual town meeting have to be advertised 2 weeks before the town meeting? Or 1 week? 1 week?
All right, so then the last page just has the meetings again. So I think we'll stick to the joint meetings that we've done for the last few years. So police, fire, DPW, school, library, council on aging, parks and rec, and facilities. We usually group them together, so it's like 3 or 4 nights probably of meetings. And then the other departments, there's no formal meeting, but I think, you know, as we're going through the consolidated budget, if there's any questions, like last year I think we had questions for like the assessor on something. So as we're going through it, if there's any changes to the budget, we can certainly ask those questions. Or have the department heads even come to a meeting. So then, in terms of expectations, I think last year we asked Diane to run. I think it's helpful to have a year-to-date kind of budget and spend on current year going into the meeting. So like what has everybody spent? Are they over in some area? It's good to know that going into kind of the requests. Budgets should be sent to the Finance Committee and Select Board at least 48 hours before the scheduled meeting so that we have time to kind of review and prep. And then anybody with kind of like a large ask, so I think when we put out the budget requests, we kind of also put out there, anybody who has, like let's use ALS for an example, when that was kind of an ask one year, to get ahead of that and kind of let us know ahead of time so that we know if anything big is coming. That's all I had, but any questions on that or anything else like regarding the process?
Looks good to me, or?
Yeah, it looks good. I did ask Michael to gather some feedback from department heads
Right.
about the process, which really there wasn't too much. Someone requested like a tutorial on the budget process. I think maybe we could offer up if anyone wants to, review that process either offline, or maybe there are new people or people who want a refresher. There actually is a really good one on the Mass Municipal Association, just to kind of give a guideline, so I'm sure we can address that. 5-year budget forecast for capital items. I know.
We had that.
We do. Well,
We have that?
we have in the form.
It's in the request, but
The re-
nobody really goes like
Yeah, it's not really.
5 years out.
Yeah,
We have a grid, don't we?
we do have a grid.
We don't use it?
How do we utilize it might be more the feedback. Is it just like, good to know that you might need these things?
I think DPW has,
That seems-
in the past, done like next year, maybe the year after, but I don't think
Facilities, I think it's the same way.
Facilities.
there's been.
Yeah, police department, fire might be other ones that could project out a little bit based on their equipment, but, so that was another point of feedback. Someone
Feedback
requested,
from them, sorry,
the department heads.
that they want to keep that
That-
in, or?
Yeah, I think looking
Yeah.
for, I don't know if it's, we can certainly drill down, that was just kind of the feedback,
Yeah.
high-level feedback, I guess. But like Sean said, there is something in that budget, but,
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think,
drill into that too much.
yeah, I think right now it's just nice to look at, like, hey, something
Just-
might be coming in a couple of years.
Yeah, just
Here,
more
and we
of-
can bump it down and move it up if something frees up, but I appreciate anybody thinking ahead.
Right. Someone suggested a salary study to address some potential retention issues with the staff.
For non-union?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone else suggested, I think, more feedback on changes to their department budget as we go through the process. So that might be just more of a communication issue, if there's any
Right.
like changes, like going back and forth. And other than that, that was it in terms of feedback, so.
Okay.
Personally, and I don't think we have the technology at this point, but we might by the time the budget season, I would love to see like a folder on our new cloud where we could just put all the budgets in one place, because our email system is kind of antiquated now. And if people are sending it, which one's the current version? So I guess in terms of just process, we can't really do it right now until we upgrade our technology, which is scheduled to be done soon. So that might be just
Okay.
something, just in terms,
And you
like
guys would
organizing
have like a
documents.
cloud like site, like
We
a
don't
shared
at the,
site?
we don't now,
Yeah, but you
but we
would.
are supposed to by the end of the year
Okay.
have something,
Great.
so that might be
Calendar
just.
or fiscal?
Hmm?
Calendar or fiscal?
Calendar, right? Yeah, I mean, it was supposed to be done in summer, right? And we're just kind of wrapping it into this year.
Yeah, they're doing onboarding now, so hopefully by the calendar year that they should have something.
Yeah. It's just hard to search our email system. If the town's email system is hard
Yeah.
to search if you're looking for like attachments to
Yeah.
files. So that would be my only feedback. Oh, well, and then one other thing with that top sheet that usually, which I think was an improvement from even a couple years ago. I think we were talking about maybe putting like a percentage change on another column in that, where we could see
Yeah.
whether it's like level, 1%, 2%, 3%, or some people have gone down in their budget, some people have gone up, just to kind of get a snapshot for
Yeah.
those of us that are challenged looking at the numbers, so. Yeah, go
I
ahead.
have just a couple things. So keeping the new position or added hours section on the department budget, so that way that stands out. I think in the past, we just did last year we just did new positions, but if they want to expand an existing position's hours, maybe highlighting that piece of it as well. For the miscellaneous budget breakdown, it seems that that number is pretty hazy. So I would request that they come with some sort of understanding and estimation on what is exactly in there. Especially if they're looking to increase that. Another one would be the balances of like any funding, any accounts that they have. I know that they're, whether they're receiving grants or they're receiving aids or donations, what does that number look like? Because I think if it gets to a point where things need to be, if we get a little bit lean, that to understand what is really gonna be necessary for them to manage their operation. And then, lastly, any of the outstanding warrant articles that have been being rolled over for several years, what's the estimated time on closing that out, or can it be closed out? I know that that's helpful for the town accountant to, instead of carrying these balances forward. And then the last one is, so for any of the meetings that don't have a formal meeting for the other departments, I would just ask that if it's anything that, any department that reports to the town administrator, if anybody's looking to add new positions, that maybe we have an opportunity to have that discussion as a joint committee.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
For some of that, like the stuff about the funds, because I feel like we asked for that last year and we didn't really get a ton of detail on it.
Right.
So would you think that should go in like the email with the request? Like, here's your budget form, and like, by the way, when you're pulling this together and submitting it, please include also like any grants. And then the miscellaneous stuff, it can be like more, so like either include it or come ready to explain it.
Yeah, right.
But I think to call that all out, Mike, in your email would be helpful, so that it's like kind of at the front,
Right.
so they know they should have it. What was the last thing you said?
Outstanding warrant articles or the joint jobs or,
No. Oh, one other, in process improvement, the adding a position reminded me. One thing we talked about last year when we were doing the non-union, like COLA raises, was to ask personnel board if they have input into it. Or if we, obviously if we like have an HR position as well, like we're making that decision based on like, what are the unions getting? Like, what do we think is the right thing to do? What can we afford? But like, the personnel board who might have more insight into like the market and like percentage, whatever they might want to look into, and or like an HR person, I think would be like better equipped to give us input on that.
and I think just in general for that point, and I could be completely wrong on this, if the finance committee is, offering a dollar amount to what that COLA would have on the overall budget, it makes sense to me. I don't understand why the finance committee has whatever their recommendation is, what it is, because whether the departments report to the town administrator or like you're mentioning, the personnel board, like ultimately, I would think that whatever the total amount of, this is what 3% would be, this is what 2.5%, and then I would think that decision would be collaborated between the town administrator and the personnel board, or I don't know if the select board would factor into that or not, but
Yeah.
to have,
Yeah, I think it comes down to like us approving it as part of the budget process, but like what it should actually be, I agree, like others can give input into that too.
Well, I think it makes more sense on a basis of when you're formulating the budget, the town accountant, the administrator, the treasurer, they're looking at what their accounts look like and how much money you have, where it all stands with the unions. Like you said, it's a combination, but I think the in-house direction is really, that's important in the process.
Yeah,
That's,
agree. When was was that salary study 2 years ago?
2022, I think,
Yep.
Okay,
which I thought it was every 5 years
But I'm
is
not-
what was
We're good.
Yeah.
the, and then the previous one was 2017.
oh wow,
So
Okay.
it would be a little,
yeah, Yeah,
are we?
we probably don't need that
Across
right
the
now.
board, yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
I'd just like to welcome Mr. Levenger. Good luck.
Thank you.
He got promoted.
You certainly sat through enough of your budget, so, I mean,
Pardon?
I said you sat through enough of your budget, so you know what it's like, so.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Do we have anything else on the agenda, or is this it?
Informally, speaking from the Conservation Commission, I don't know if you saw our last meeting, but we're negotiating with Sterling about a possible shared position over there as far as a conservation agent. It opened up, Rutland pulled out, and it was too good of an opportunity to pass up, just geographically. So we have enough money, thanks to your wisdom, through the 20,000. We might have to go back to the reserve fund to cover some expenses for Russia Farm, but as soon as we know, we'll let you know before we enter into any kind of agreement.
Okay.
Sterling, I think, is going to, Michael, correct me if I'm wrong, Sterling's going to pay them, and we're the plus one, so it doesn't have to go through the personnel board here. We just have to figure out who covers benefits and things like that, so.
Yeah. So maybe Conservation Commission will be like
Yeah.
at a meeting.
That's fine.
Yeah, just like for next year, if that's gonna be like an
Yeah.
ongoing
Great.
thing. Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
We have expressed a desire to standardize the forms that the different departments are gonna be filling out. I thought like last year we were talking about wanting to do that. I don't know how big of a deal that is, but I know it is, not a necessity, but it would be kind of nice to see like everyone's budget proposal be on like the same kind of like format.
We have this one.
Yeah,
That's what we've been using, and I can circulate it
okay. No, that's fine.
around. But we did ask them to start, I don't know if every
Yeah,
department
because
did.
some weren't using.
Some were not, but I
Yeah.
think but maybe this is kind of like required
Mhm.
of it.
Yeah, I think Michael had sent something out as a suggested template, and it seemed like most of the departments that presented had used at least some of it, but.
Okay.
Yeah, but it is helpful when you're reviewing, I don't know
Yeah.
what your opinions are, but when you're reviewing them over and over again to have them standardized. Speed it up a bit.
All right, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Who sets up the date for the next meeting? We set up our own, or?
For just February?
Joint, so.
Yeah. And we probably won't meet again till like at least January,
February
at the
2nd?
earliest January.
January?
Yeah, so we can just do that via email. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Have a good night.
Make a motion.
Adjourn? Okay.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
So far, isn't it?